Yeah.
Hi,
Hello,
Sam.
team.
Hey, Don.
Hello.
What's happening?
Good, all good, all good. How are you, Sam?
Good, good, good. Just a bit chilly. Bit chilly, but fine. It's all good. And yourselves?
Yeah, all good. The sun outside, so it's actually warm. When you're
Hey.
outside in the sun.
Listen, Simone, let me just say that this is the third episode. It's the first time Ahmed is wearing his gangster cap, so he's ready here. Today, he is
I'm
ready.
seeing this thing as well. Like, I'm also seeing it. I'm like, I should have worn my hoodie at least. I should have, yeah. And
Something, just
like,
a little bit of street creds. Yeah,
with my weave out, guys. Like, I even brushed this damn thing.
Donovan and I spoke about wardrobe last night, so that's how we kind of coordinated.
You know what I'm saying?
Man, should have told me.
I had to take the do-rag off, I was just like, hey, this is not a fashion show. This one. All right, I think, sorry, go for it.
I'm saying this is the one. We should have all just been like visors. In fact, I put my visors.
I think let's get straight into it, man. I'm just worried that people's like load shedding schedules are going to get the better of us. So let's just get straight into it right now. First of all, thank you so much for joining us, Simone. What a pleasure to have you here. This is the third episode or third installment. I like the word installment more than episode of Final Approval. It's been going very, very well so far. So shout out to the Luries and to Brand South Africa for organizing this. My name is Donovan Goliath. I'm one of the hosts. But I will never, ever host this show alone. And that's why I had to include the OG, the savant himself, Mr. Ahmed Tilly. How are you, brother?
I'm good, Donovan. Thanks for having me. I'm really enjoying this hosting thing. Maybe I want to make a thing of it. What do you think?
I think you absolutely should do it.
Got the right beard for it, eh? Got the right
Exactly.
Guys, I shave every Tuesday because of this thing. So I'm up early, trying to trim up the beard, put on my cap, make sure I represent.
Yours is connecting. It's connecting all the way.
Struggle. It's the struggle. All right. So just to get back into it. So we're going to chat to Simone for about an hour or so. This is predominantly a Q&A session. I mean, we could interview her, but I think it's just, it's really good to get everybody who's logged on involved in all of this and throw some questions at Simone, things you've always wanted to know about production and, a couple of the topics that we are going to cover right now. At the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button. Please do post your questions there. Torai, I see that you keep posting in the chat section. If you can just move your questions into the Q&A section, either to Simone or directed at myself or Ahmed, we'll try and get through as many of those as possible. But for now, to introduce the lady of the moment, we're very, very excited. And for those of you who have no idea who you are, Simone, just like a total badass is how I like to describe you. Right now, currently, you are executive producer and founder of Osu Production. which is it's a production house that produces film content, commercials, TV, photography. You name, you pretty much do everything. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so yeah, Osu, let me first start with the name, because I think a lot of people get the name wrong, the pronunciation. It's not Asu, it's Osu.
Osu. Osu. That's your son's name.
That's my son's name.
So it's your baby and this is your baby.
I mean, look, they both turned 2 years old this year. So yeah, like, so we're turning 2 in 4 days time, which is quite a great milestone for a small business. So yeah, so in terms of the name, and I think that also then leads into what we do and who we are.
Yeah.
So the name, I've taken the meaning from Japanese, which is to push and to persevere, but the Japanese version, the pronunciation is Os. So we took the pronunciation from Ghana, which is a district in Ghana, and that is Osu, which has a different meaning as well. So we combined it for Osu's name, our son, and then when I decided to start this company on CIPC, I was lazy, I didn't know what other name, God was on my boob, and I was like, Osu. We work for you, dog. We work for you. So yeah. So the name means to push, to persevere, and that's what we do. We're in an industry that is like multifaceted, and we're always looking to do things differently. So we do TV commercials, but we also do digital. We also do photography. We do a whole bunch of things. So we're not limited to just one type of, creative output or creation. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we are.
Can I ask a question, Sam, for the benefit of a lot of the people who are watching? Who's Simone Bosman pre-Osu? Where do you come from? How did you end up here?
Okay, so you want to go back into my... Okay, cool. So Simone pre-Osu, hails from Cape Town, born and bred. Grew up there, went to UCT. In fact, I have a degree. And then it was during my time at university that actually an executive producer, Peter Gerd, actually came to our school, and he founded me, and he was like, yo, dog, listen, you need to get into the industry. At that point, I really thought that I was going to become a journalist. I was headstrong being a investigative journalist. So I was really talking to carte blanche and stuff like that. And
wow.
Yeah, so like I was like, so one of my lecturers, he's married to Lisa Pius, and yeah, and she was part of Carte Blanche at the time. So I was like being mentored by her at some point. And then in my final year, because I had a student loan from APSA, I had to pay it off. And I was like, a journalist salary is not going to cut this loan. Like, I'm not going to get a car. Like, my first car that I have to buy for myself, I'm not going to do that. And then, yeah, so I got into the industry. Peter Gerd founded me. I also was mentored by Giant Films. I used to work as a receptionist for them at some point in my final year. And that kind of like opened up the doors for me in terms of like seeing what goes into what goes behind the scenes of actually putting a production together. And then I became intrigued, went on to sets. But like the biggest thing that caught my eye is that tent that people sit behind. And then you see like, Peter Gerd going to the tent and speaking to someone and going to the director. And I'm like, man, I like those people in the tent. Like, they get food, they get coffees. And I was like, no. Let me try and look into this tent. And then spent a year at Peter Gerd, and then was retrenched for the first time at like 21 years old, first job, first thing ever. And like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I've been retrenched. It was a shitty and crappy feeling. And then, yeah, started setting up my CV out to agencies, and then Saatchi & Saatchi took me on, and then I worked under, like literally directly under the head of TV, Jenny Cole. And then, then eventually saw that Cape Town was a little bit too small. My ambitions were too big, because I was like, there's no ways that I'm going to remain being a junior producer. So then I reached out to Johannesburg, and yeah, I am. Like,
came here to make money.
I wanted money, guys. At that time, I had a student loan. It was a student loan that inspired, and I was like, I need to squash this thing. Like, I need to get out. So yeah, so I came to Johannesburg in 2007, And yeah, I've been working at Metropolitan Republic, even did a little bit stint at Mother Russia, then went to Ogilvy, and that was like the final agency gig. And I was like, cool, like, let's get on to see what else is out there other than, working in agency. So yeah.
That sounds incredible. This I'm gonna head into. We've got one question here from Ukuku Kojane, and this is actually a very, very great question. Difficult one, but great. Simone, at you, what is the biggest production-related lesson that you have learned through COVID? So how have you adapted to a new way of working in a business that is historically conducted in person and or in close contact? That's a fantastic question.
Geez, there's a lot to that question. I think the first thing in terms of like production during COVID, I think you need to so we've always been working as a small team. Like we've never, or not hardly, but like I've always been cognizant that like the smaller the team, the easier it is for you to produce work. And that also stems to like being agile, So the scripts that we often get, like you kind of like have to move with it. You've got X amount of budget, your script is X amount of shots and whatever. So you always have to move forward. So I think when COVID came through and like now everybody's like, oh my gosh, we're limited to X amount of people on set. I think that for us, which is a good thing, we've always been kind of working in that way to be a little bit more agile and to work smaller. So now it's more like it reinforces that the ideas and the methods that we've applied as a production company has kind of like equipped us to work through this. But in terms of type, like being like the proximity of people on set and being a very people-centric business, it is difficult, but you kind of have to think of smart ways in terms of like how you have to plan everything when it comes to production. Yes, you can have your masks, your visors, your hand sanitizers and all that stuff, but I think the biggest lesson for us, especially in this business, and more especially that we are people-centric, is that we need to be responsible for each other. If you're not feeling well, don't come to work. Or like if you know that, hey, you know what, I've had close contact with someone, I think right now is a time that, even, especially now with COVID, like in our industry, there's X amount of work going around, everybody's hungry, we have a bunch of freelancers, that, you're not getting UIF and all that stuff. So everybody needs to work, but I think it begs you to kind of consider not just yourself, but others as well. And you can do all the precautionary measures, but I think the biggest measure that one needs to take is to say, first of all, like, if I'm not feeling well, let me not come to set. And yeah, like, you just have to be smart in terms of how you plan your shoot, how you plan your shot list, how you plan your story, how you plan your treatments. You can't have big sets anymore. You can't have people together. So you're gonna have to be very clever in terms of even like the DOPs that you work with your shot list. Take the camera, be in people's spaces, do this, do that, look at different shots and all this stuff, and just be creative and find creative solutions within the shot list. I hope that kind of like answers the question.
Can I jump in there? And you mentioned it now just towards the end about being creative with your shot list. I've been, fortunate enough during this time to work on a couple of things that I think ideally would have made great TV ads, where I would have gone into studio or whatever it is to shoot something, but I was briefed to kind of do the stuff at home myself using my own devices and my resources, which I found to be an interesting challenge, but I also found it interesting because we're living in a time right now, I think, where especially for creative people, perfection is very subjective at the moment, so people will forgive you if your stuff doesn't look like it was shot, in super HD, but if the story and the idea is incredibly strong, you can get away with it, especially during this time. Have you been getting a lot of those kinds of briefs where you've gone, okay, we have I'm talking like early on, when obviously everybody was on strict lockdown, but briefs would still come through to you. Have you ever been in a situation or received a brief where they've gone, this is what we want to do. Can we have your people brief people at home on how to do this so that we can get this piece of work out? And how have you managed that?
So fortunately, no, because you know what, like it's a very difficult thing, that thing, in that like you don't want to start producing work that now people will say, oh, you know, also did that thing, they did it off their laptops,
Yes,
whatever.
yes, yes.
And like now you've spent all this time building a CI for your company, your work, your production value that you put in. You know, there's a certain aesthetic that, like, if you look at our show reel, our work, there's nothing low-fi, and if it's low-fi, it needs to work according to the concept. You know what I mean? So fortunately, we have not received those briefs, and fortunately, the briefs that we did receive are of the ones where they look at what we've done and they want something similar to that or something different that works, so that it still has production value. I do think that, I think that there's that when those briefs, when they do, like, those briefs do exist. But I do think that now those kind of briefs the clients have gone directly to, like, your influencers. For example, like, as you say, they will cut us out from production because they know that, first of all, production is going to be expensive. They're going to want to shoot this thing differently and all that stuff. Let me go straight to the person that can actually do it themselves on their laptop and edit it and then send it to me. And all I have to pay is 80,000 Rand. So what I have been doing is that I have been giving advice to a lot of my peers who are, you know, Instagram people like yourself. You've got, you know, you're a celeb, you're a comedian, all that. So I have been giving advice to people that who don't know how to edit or even shoot anything off their phone. Like there's an assumption that every person who has huge Instagram numbers and that when they take a picture, they can do themselves. But you don't realize that that person actually commissions a photographer or a videographer or somebody to actually capture that and edit it for them so that it looks good. So what I've been doing is I've just been like advising people, like, if you're going to do it yourself, pay for your time as an editor, pay your time as a camera person, because in any which way, clients would have paid that anyway to a production company had we had to do that, you know, normally if there was no COVID. So you also need to compensate for your time when you're doing these things. I hope that.
Great, fantastic. Ahmed?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little broader question. I think there's another question that's quite specific, which we'll get into in a minute. But I'm really fascinated with Simone Bosman, and I want to know more about it. I want to know why did you start OSU? You could walk into any production company, any agency in the country. You've got great experience, you've got amazing passion, you're brilliant at what you do. Why did you choose to start OSU?
So before I started OSU, I started another company where I partnered with two phenomenal women that decided to mentor me and to actually show me the business of production, Melina and Lorraine from Darling. And I think it's important to kind of like start from there before we get to OSU, because I think that, you know, in our industry, there's always like we always think there's this negative like drama when there's a breakup or whatever, but that's not the case. So when I was at agency, I was the one that would be the person calling on, you know, for suppliers to get a brief. And like, you look at a script and you're like, okay, with the creatives, you decide who you want to brief and all that stuff. And then what we started to see, especially when it came to production, that we needed to get Black creatives, Black talent, Black film directors, etc. You ended up seeing the same 5 names popping up. At that time, there was like very little Black female film directors, and there were very young ones as well. Like, and I mean young, under the ages of like 25. So, and when you looked at the 5 directors that we kept on briefing, these guys have been going from production company to production company. They've worked very hard. They've been building relationships. They've been doing things for little money. And like, I always saw that, wait a minute, like, if we're talking about transformation, and this was back in 2014, at what point will these 5 guys get a step up in the industry so that they can also, you know, treat again like your typical senior white film directors, right? So then I sat, and it was actually a client, funny enough, a DSTV client, who actually was the one who said, Simone, we are the younger ones, because in long form, we're getting a bunch of like younger people coming in, asking us to direct stuff, even for promos. Why are we not seeing enough of that in the agency side in terms of commercials? And then I was like, you know what? maybe I should look into this. And I started like checking out who was out there, and I started picking up quite a few young film directors, females, young guys, guys of color. And then I started also looking at photographers as well. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's a bit of a gap. You know, yes, there are some production companies that have been doing it, but they've been very like, you know, they've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and then you end up only getting like the smaller jobs. You push this person, you train and you invest, and then the person goes away and stuff like that. Or when they do stay, they kind of have to stay for the long haul. And then I decided, you know what, how many Black female executive producers are there? That's number one, in terms of commercials. And specifically commercials, not long form, because there's a few in long form. And then number two, how many 100% Black owned production companies are there?
How many are there out of interest?
I mean, it comes back in 2014. And then I was like, okay, this very little. Zero.
Yeah, how many? How many in 2014?
Zero.
None.
There was like this, like zero. So anyway, so I was, okay.
And now?
Now there's a few. Now there's a few. I was alone for a while, and now May, she used to work in production as well at Darling. She started her own company, Romania Films. So at least it's not lonely anymore, you know. But it's been lonely for a while. Like it's sadly been lonely. It's like we're going 4 years now. So anyway, so then I decided, you know what? I felt at the same time, at the time when I was in agency, I was doing like the same thing. It wasn't feeling motivated, like I wasn't motivated. I enjoyed what I was doing, but I just felt like I needed to do something more. Like started like asking the production companies, yo guys, can you start getting people in? I will support you. I will try and give you like gigs. Let's try and get more young people. But it was just the investment from their side. And also, yes, I can ask for it at one agency, but what about all the other agencies? You know what I mean? Are they also asking for it? Is it a viable thing for them to invest and mentor a young film director or photographer and taking that time? And then, you know, I then had this idea, let me just go out on my own. I started, before I jumped, Ahmed, you were one of the people. So, and that's actually the fun part, is that like, I've always heard about Ahmed. I've seen Ahmed, like, you know, Ahmed and I have never worked. We've never worked together. And that day I said, you know what? Screw that. Let me call this guy. And I called him and I said, Ahmed, you don't know me, but I need to talk to you. I'm about to make a life-changing decision. We met at Robotello and chatted. And I think it was that conversation that pushed me to make me realize that this is the right decision to make. And then, yeah, then I decided, you know what? I can't just jump from being an agency producer to thinking that because I only see production houses quotes, that I know it goes behind the scenes of running a production company. And because of my relationship with the Darling ladies, I was like, you know what, guys, like, I want to start this thing. They were like, listen, our doors open, we mentor you and all this. And it was probably the best thing that I did. For 18 months, I got to understand what goes behind the scenes, understand the blueprint actually of the production of how to run a production company, because you can be Black and you can be female, but if you don't know your shit, especially when it comes to running a production and a business and understanding how things come together, you can fall flat. And the other thing that you start realizing as well, especially when you get that type of insight, you also understand how it is to be on the other side of the table, you know, like when you have to be the one knocking on doors, sending those emails, doing those calls and say, hey, how are you doing? And you understand it more. So those 18 months was crucial until I got to the point where I was like, okay, I want to do things my way now. I've seen this blueprint and I now want to push things harder. Like I really want to push my things harder. There's certain things I want to do a bit more aggressively. And you know what, as business partners, you start seeing that, you know, yes, this company has their CI, their strategy of where they want to push. And my ideas were a little bit different, you know what I mean? So I was like, you know what, guys, I think I'm ready now to go on my own, to actually do this thing on my own, and actually to feel how it is to be on my own. I mean, a little bit of insight as well. You know, you think that when you're with another production company, an established one, especially having a smaller production company, that you think that, okay, cool, the work will start flooding in, but it didn't. Like, you thought that having that type of relationship to the industry to show, okay, cool, we're having this backup, it didn't. Like, I'll tell you some very sad stories where, for example, a brief would come in and stuff, And then people will be like, okay, cool. So Simone, like, yes, you were a senior producer at agency, but running your own company is a different thing. We need to make sure that you've got a senior person above you. And you're like, no,
Wow.
I'm the senior person.
I'm the person.
Like, this is it.
Like,
you know? And that kind of like really opened up my eyes to say, hey, you know what, guys, you're great when you're there inside. But the minute you're outside and you're the one that needs to, the money must come into your company bank account. It's a different story. And that's when you start realizing this beautiful word called trust. Do people actually trust you? And that is what you have to, that's what I had to learn for the first 18 months is trust. Trust from people that I used to work with, my ex-colleagues. It's a different thing. Sometimes we will support you and, you know, they're writing, you know, you are this, you are that, but do they trust you to actually do the job? And that has been the thing. That's been the most interesting journey. So the motivation for me was that if I go on my own, will I get the support? Will I get the business? And just to see if this thing is going to go anywhere. If I don't have another person behind me, and I'm going to be racial, if I don't have a white person behind me or with me, and if I go 100% on my own, will the industry support? And the first month, the ones who supported, Black agencies. And I was like, wow, okay, this is interesting. This is very interesting, cool. And it's smaller agencies. They kind of, and it was also part of a strategy of mine where I was like, maybe if I start appealing to your Black agencies, then maybe, and especially those who are trying to also make their reels look appealing to clients, etc., then I can get in. So I was like, cool. So I started getting work like that until Ahmed then comes through and they're like, yo, we need Black people in front at FCB. And then you start getting calls from FCB and you're like, wow, okay, cool, this is working. So it was quite interesting that the minute I went on my own, the work started flooding. And that's why I could sustain myself for 2 years. So it was just interesting to see how the industry, for some weird reason, was like, okay, we need to make sure that this person grows. But it wasn't as if like we received big budgets. No, I'm talking like when we received, it was small budgets. Like you get small budgets, you make it work, you start, and that's why I was saying that, going back to your initial question about, you know, how do we work now in COVID, we've had to learn from small budgets to just work small and to be very agile because of that. And that's how we kept it going and going. So, and it's now 2 years in, I've now seen more people of color coming into the industry, especially from a production company side. We've seen more Black directors and especially female directors coming up, which is great, which there were very little of. I still feel that there should still be more because there's enough work for all of us. I'm seeing that there's more, we've been invited to a little bit more pictures. So the doors are opening up, but not enough. Yeah. So the trust has been there, the trust has been built, but now we need to get into the rooms a little bit more, like more doors need to open up. Some doors are still closed. Some doors that used to be open, unfortunately due to COVID, now has to close down because of economics. But now it's the time to see like, okay, cool, more doors need to open up, especially when it comes to supporting and to giving Black businesses opportunity.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know. You went in, eh? You went in on that answer. That was great. So much so that you sparked
the right
questions immediately here. You know what? This first question I'm about to ask, this is, maybe not. This is a potential brief that may come to your production house right here. This is from Rhoda Davids, who asks, or who says that I work for a destination marketing organization, and we are in the process of creating our domestic campaign for when leisure travel opens up. So we obviously don't want to give our brand COVID, but also don't want to ignore the realities around us. Would you stay away from showing people in masks and visors, etc., or would you include this in the production?
First of all, it depends on your story. If you want to tell a story that wants to show how life is going to be now, so I know that the tourism industry opens up, I think, on level 1, and we're not sure how close we are to level 1, and depending on where that is. I mean, we've literally just done an ad where we had people wearing masks. So I'm not going to say no to it because it's ugly. If it's responsible for the story, if it's responsible for what you're trying to say about your brand, then yes, definitely it needs to be part of the story. Life right now, it is what it is, guys. Like masks, they're going to be there. Like, so you're going to have to get used to it. You have to be creative with it. How we're going to show things and just do things differently. So yeah, if your story is like, you still want people to wear masks, if it's part of your CI that whoever visits your destination, like your hotels or whatever, and that is a prerequisite that you have to walk in with a mask, then we're gonna have to shoot something and film something with the mask. Clearly, obviously, if somebody's in a room, in an hotel room, and they don't need to wear the mask, then it's fine. We can also show that, but it all depends on your story. So no, we can take those briefs on. It's fine.
There we go. Just hit up Simone. She'll answer all those questions for you. Now, another question from you, from the legend himself, Mumbles, who says, first of all, you look beautiful, Simone. What do you think is the best produced piece of TV advertising in South Africa? And have you ever told an agency that their script is wrong? This is a two-part question. That's for you, and we'll ask Ahmed's later, but let's get to you first.
Mumbles, that first question.
Now you're trying to think of what piece Mumbles wrote. Like, this is what he wants to hear.
It's a tough one. The best produced piece of TV advertising.
Yeah.
But I guess Mumbles means one of your favorites. It's very difficult to choose one, but
yeah, I can be biased, eh? Can we just talk about my work? It's easy.
yeah,
But let me first talk about the second question.
Yeah.
So what we've been doing as a company is that obviously you get scripts and you look at the scripts and you're like, okay, the scripts this one makes sense, but hey, you know what? You can change it in there. So you don't go to an agency and say your script is cack. Like otherwise you don't, you know?
Yeah.
But what you do is you ask the question, is the script set or can we add something to it? And that has been the lingo we've been using. The minute an agency says, no, you can't change it, we will still add something different to make it a bit more appealing. For example, we did a job for AfriSam, and the script that they sent through, for budget reasons, it was too expensive, and the budget was never going to be that. In fact, only one scene would have amounted to the entire budget. And so we asked them, and it was a confirmed script. The client was like, we like this idea, and we were like, okay, sure, but like, how do we take all of that expensive ideas and put them into something that we can shoot on a single day, and we can shoot in one person in a house, like, and maximize of that. So take all the magical ideas that they've had, like they had a script where they say, oh, you see him, the main character going to Egypt, and like, we can't go to Egypt on a budget that is not going to take you to Egypt, guys. Like, it's not realistic. And then, but more so, the script initially was about 3 gogos having tea, and we were like, okay, so we can't have these commercials, and we can't be seeing ooh, and all these things, you know what I mean? Like, going, ooh, yes,
dancing.
Yeah, this is no, we were like, no, death by that. We don't, like, some of us talk like that, others don't. Let's just stop it. So we decided, you know what? We're going to change the characters, still keeping 3 women, but we're going younger, not old ladies having tea and coffee. And we're going to have women in the hood doing yoga. That's it. Like, and this, funny enough, was in a room of majority white people. And guess what? They were like, that's insightful. We didn't know. Like, that's why we're here. You know what I mean? So 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 a lot of agencies are open to the solutions that we bring, and I think that the way that you have to bring your own experiences, your knowledge, and all that stuff, like you shouldn't be afraid to actually look at the script and say, listen, can we just change this thing a little bit to make it a bit more relevant? You know what I mean? And we need to fight for that as much as we can, because it's like this thing of seeing, you know, Black people dancing for food, you know, it's been going on for a very long time, and we must stop it. Like, and I'm glad to see that it's changing a little bit, but there is still that way that you'll see a Black person just dancing for no reason. We love dancing, clearly we do, you know what I mean? But is that true, and is that relevant for everything? Like, we're dancing for cars, we're dancing for everything, you know what I mean? Like, let's stop it. Like, let's just look at something that people can resonate with, but also because like you want to shoot something that the minute it lands on social media, it can just go, like it can really just go. So to answer Mumble's first question, AfriSam is probably like for me, like what we've produced is a commercial that I feel that in terms of storytelling, it's great. Comedy is great, but also in terms of its relevance, in terms of like seeing Black women doing something in the hood, in a setup that's different, and not the typical thing that you would see on TV. And no,
But to quote you then, Simone, your ad or content piece is only relevant until Black Twitter makes a meme, a GIF, or a hashtag out of it.
Yeah. It is
I agree. 100% agree. Do you know how difficult it is to achieve just that? I love that. That's the benchmark. That's what you work towards right there. I love it so much.
I mean, we can't be producing commercials only where the insight comes from Twitter. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's also a trend. Like, we see what Twitter does, we see what people post generically, and now we're like, okay, we want to put that into an advert. You know what I mean? Like, it can't just be that. We need to also take our creativity. Clients will be like, oh man, like, so you're gonna write an ad with what happened on Twitter, great stuff. Like, if we can also write these things. We need to start going backwards to say, what do we do creatively that we can write so that it can influence Twitter as well? And we've been doing it for a long time. Like, advertising, as far as I know, has been the first Twitter in all of time. We've always influence these things, like, you know, you go from Vodacom old adverts, etc., the sayings and all that stuff, like just little quotes that people say, those all stem from advertising. It all stems from great advertising. And now I think that we're getting blurred now, where we're seeing, okay, if Twitter does it, or if Instagram does it, or if the video comes up, or the meme comes up, we now have to put it in to make it relevant. And I really think we need to go back. So that's what we're trying to do. With every ad that we do, we'll do our storyboards to say, okay, if there's something we can do, like somebody just does that as a meme, like we can take that out, edit it, and just make it into a GIF. Done. Like, let that go, so like people can use it. And it's always nice to see it come back to you. You're like,
Oh, the best.
That's when you know it worked.
Absolutely, man. And then actually a follow-up then to that, still with Mumble's question to you, Ahmed, with the limitations of COVID, do you think the level of work submitted to Lourie's will be of a high standard?
So I think most of the work that would have been submitted would be pre-COVID. So I think this particular, I think maybe next year would be interesting to see. I think there'll be a fair amount of work there. I do think that COVID communications it's almost like day one of advertising. Everyone's trying to figure out how to do it. Interesting question earlier from one of the people looking in is what, like, should you wear masks or not? How do you portray people? So I think that there's always good quality in every year. I think this year you'll find maybe one or two pieces that were really smart in and amongst all this usual sort of COVID related communication. I think it'll be only one or two of them in there. I think the work will get more intelligent over the next few months. So next year would be interesting to see what the quality of work would be like. But I have to say that just the sheer number or volume of work that would have been or not have been created over the last 3 months has to affect how much good work is in there. It's going to be interesting to see. There's always great work. There might be less great work this year, but you only need, 5 amazing pieces, for us to have an impression of how good the year was or how bad the year was. I think once you filter out all the average stuff, you'll find some gems in there. And as we know, as creative people, Donovan, you can actually talk to this. Creativity for or difficult situations force amazing creative work to come out of it. It's the constraints that actually make us useful. So the more
Absolutely.
constraints there are, the more creative people rise to the fore and do amazing work. And I think that's going to encourage some really smart work. So I reckon we'll see some good stuff this year, but I reckon we'll see even better stuff next year that really goes back to day one of advertising and rethinks how we do things. So yeah, I'm excited about the work that comes out over the next few years.
Yeah, you spot on there. I think that if anything, I don't think that it's the COVID related material that we're going to be looking out for. I think it's what people did during this time, like you're saying, with basic resources. I think people got really, really smart with small budgets, just like going back to basics, very, very simple production techniques or whatever it is to tell stories. I think that's going to be interesting to see and refreshing. I think, that's going to be a very refreshing take. I think we went through a phase, of very similar, like the trends it was just all too similar. There was nothing really punchy. A lot of stuff was quite expected. I'm just talking the last 2 or 3 years or so. So for me, that's what I'm excited to see this year is how people have used the constraints, to actually try and still tell amazing stories. Simone, another really, really great question for you here for somebody I think who is interested in getting into what you do from Tandeka Gilbert. How would you advise other up and coming production houses and filmmakers or directors of color to overcome the red tape of not having the acceptable reps or backing that can help bolster them getting recognition and the trust needed to be awarded projects? In other words, how can they be better prepared?
I think so first of all, you need to have a stomach because your stomach needs to take all the no's like that you're going to get. Even me, like I get like just yesterday, you're like, hi, can I have a meeting with your creative teams? And then the person says, oh no, I already know about you guys. Best of luck out there. Bye. Like, and that happens. You know what I mean? Like that happens. So I think that you just need to be persistent. Like you just have to be persistent. You have to knock on those doors. You have to look at your business value. You need to look at what your business offering is because yes, you are Black, full stop. You are Black, you're born Black, that's it. It's not gonna change or whatever. But what you really need to look at is, other than being Black, what are you offering? So you need to look at your business as a business. The production company, this is not Hollywood, this is a business. Like what is your product? You need to look at that as well. And you need to understand what your product offering is. If you're representing talent, like what are their offerings? What is their unique talents or creative talents and capabilities that you can sell so that you can attract a creative and a client and a brand to say, actually, you know what, I want to brief so-and-so because they're really great at what they're doing. For example, if you look at Sindiso, who's the illustrator, first of all, he's a talented illustrator, and like that's his product. His product is that he illustrates, he's a designer, and also he's creative. Nowhere did I say anything that he's a Black illustrator. First of all, he's an illustrator. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I think you need to work on your product. And once you work on your product and you are able to export your product and show people this is what we can do, and this is the people that have entrusted us to do it, and we keep on getting the calls to do what we do, then you'll start getting those calls. But you can't just use your Blackness only to get into the door. You really need to look at your business. You really need to look at your business offering. And I think that's the most important thing. And like, understand that every business, like with our industry, we're flooded. Like there's a lot of production companies, or let's say there are production companies, but there's a lot of talents within those production companies. You'll probably find like the smallest production company has about 2 directors, if not 1. The biggest one has about 7. So if you think about that, like how many directors and photographers there is under different stables, and how many briefs go out to that, like, guys, there's a lot to choose. There's a lot of options. But if you look at Black options, for example, it's quite marginal. So being Black is not enough. You actually have to be very good. So push as much as you can, but you need to look at what your offering is. And also, the other thing that's important, I don't think people do enough of this, is like, I always look at everybody else's work. I look at my colleagues, and I'm not saying competitors. I think we're all colleagues at the end of the day. Another production company that does the same thing that I do, we're colleagues at the end of the day. Yes, we might compete for work when it comes to treatments and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we all use the similar resources. We use the same suppliers at the end of the day. So, and we help them grow, and we have to try find new people, and we bring them in. So always do a little bit of a market study. Like, you have to do a market study, see what other people are doing, see where you fit into it as well, see where you position yourself. And that's where you can say, okay, fine, cool, this is how I'm going to sell myself and target certain briefs that can come to me. If you want to go into a certain level of work, then you're going to have to try and invest in yourself. So if you want to start shooting big ads, do something that's going to make people see that you've done something big, you know what I mean? And they've got appetite to do something big, because that's also going to bring the trust as well. So people can say, you know what, we see something in your reel, you've done this thing, you've got the ability to do something big, here's a brief, let's try and see if we can put you on.
Thanks, Simone. That's a great answer. We've got, I think, like 15 minutes, and there's a lot of questions. Johnny, let's try and get through as many of them as we can.
You want to throw one out there?
Yeah, Rory Jacobs is next in line with a question. He says, when working with a creative agency with creative people, meaning art directors, designers, photographers, is there a definitive line where their and your job ends and starts? I'll read that again. When working with a creative agency with creative people, art directors, designers, photographers, etc., is there a definitive line where their/your job ends and starts? I think it's about, if I understand it correctly, the question's around something we discussed earlier. Like, do you remain an art director or a designer in that particular role? Or do you break out of like the roles that we're given? I think so, Donovan.
Yeah, I think that's what Rory is trying to say. If Rory is still online right now, actually, because this is, I kind of have an idea, but I don't think we should, I don't want to get this wrong. So Rory, if you can just refine that a little bit and just explain, what it is that you're asking, and then we will get back to that one, actually. Let's actually fly through to the next question. So we will answer that, Rory. If you can just update that question a little bit and make it slightly clearer, we'll definitely answer that. And then there's this next question, which is, what advice would you give to a young Black girl who is still trying to make it? Won a gold Lurie and Pandorings, but that's all forgotten. Not enough funds to publish my book due to lack of funds, having to move back to a country that doesn't appreciate ladies in our industry and having to settle for less. How do you stay hopeful, especially in these times? Shucks, it's a tough one.
You know what? The mere fact that she's moved and she's still pushing, I think you just have to just say, and sorry to use this beautiful word, but just say, fuck it. Like, it's yours. Like, it's yours. Like, nobody can stop you from doing what you want to do. So just go for it. Like as much as there will be a lot of no's and stuff like that, if your gut says this is what you're supposed to do, and most importantly, if this is your calling, then go for it. Don't give up. Like, at some point, somebody's going to say, okay, cool, like, let this person come through, and then you'll fly. But yeah, don't give up. Like, I think that's just in terms of your personality. If you're persistent, if your personality is persistent, then just push on.
That's a good answer.
Look, I also think that, I'm not too sure, it's an anonymous attendee. I'm not too sure what country you would have moved back to, but I think, in this day and age, the fact that you're online right now, and we've been able to answer this question, means that you have access, to the internet and to digital. So I don't think that you should let where you're from and the agency or whatever it is, or whichever place you're working for, dictate, who you are and whatever level you're at. I think put your work out there. You never know who's watching you online. This is the best and worst time to be on social media right now. You know, people are watching, people are waiting. There are people out there who are trawling the internet, really trying to find exceptional talent. And you must be exceptional. You've won a gold Luri and a Penduring. So clearly you are good. So my advice would be just to make as much noise online as possible, where I don't think you're going to get judged and, you know, disrespected for being a lady in this industry. I think really just put your work out there and let that speak for itself.
And just to quickly jump on that, like I said before, like I didn't know Ahmed when I started my business, but yet I picked up the phone and I called him and I asked him for a meeting, kind of like demanded a meeting, and he said yes. So there will be an Ahmed that she can reach out to that will actually answer her call and say, and especially if it's a man, if you're in a situation where you're saying that you're limited because you're a woman, like there will be a guy, if not two, who will open up that door for you and actually give you airtime and advise you in terms of how to do. Just don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Somebody will pick up. So yeah. That's the.
Shucks, man, that broke my heart a little bit there. That was so.
No, definitely.
Wow.
Like. You get these questions, we get these questions, these type of questions at Open Chair as well. Like, it's disheartening what happens to women in the industry as well. It's like, they feel afraid. It's like, there's this thing of a boys club. How do I infiltrate the boys club? How do I break all that stuff? And the thing is, you just kind of have to push. Unfortunately, we've got to fight as women.
Yeah, I just want to add that I agree. I don't think you can quit. The alternative is worse. You just got to keep going. Also, I mean, I look around and, you know, albeit a very small percentage of women in South African advertising and creative industries who've been given the platform and the shine, there's still some amazing ones who've broken through even more difficult circumstances to make it. And I think if you look at all of them, they're just like Simone, like you said, you just can't give a fuck about the world around you. You've got to go for it. And you can't quit. You can't stop. And you know, ultimately, those are the winners in any aspect of any business, in any aspect of life. The ones who win are the ones who, ironically, persevere. Coming back to the meaning of your name, perseverance is everything, and you got to keep fighting the fight, because if you quit, a whole lot of other people around you quit as well, and then no one goes anywhere. So yeah, there's a contribution from the people who the Boys Club to be able to give platform to young women and be able to give them the opportunity, but not without you continuing the fight as an individual. So yeah, don't stop, don't give up. Everybody needs that. You want to get onto Google?
Yeah, let's do Google. I think Google is a nice question here. What's the transition been like working with small agencies to working with large agencies, big clients with baller budgets? Do you still accept work from the smaller guys now that you're in the big leagues, Simone?
Oh, hey guys, it's so confused here. First of all, I'm a comrade. So comrades always look after their people. So I say yes to work from everybody, big, small. I don't think, like, I'm glad to think that people think I'm in the big leagues, but I think I'm just on a league of my own. Like, that's reality. Like, I can't. And I think that's also the misconception, is that when people see like, oh, Oso's now doing work that this one would have done it from a big company, then you're guys, no, that thing stops you from being okay. And like, no, I'm just no. Thanks for the compliment, but we will work with everybody. In terms of the briefs, what was it?
No, I think you've answered it. You've answered it. Yeah. You nailed it. Now, got another question here from another incredible lady, somebody I really respect. Suhana Gordon is watching this, actually, who says, first of all, she absolutely loves you and has a lot of respect for you. And great question. If you had the ear of all the CDs and ECDs in Adland here in South Africa, what would your message be to them, especially regarding opening up opportunities for young Black directors?
My sister, nice. Hey, you copy there. Okay, so I think I do have most of the ears because I can see the numbers. I think right now, I think CDs, ECDs need to pause. Okay, I think that what COVID has taught us is that there's no such thing as a deadline. Okay. And because of deadlines, you always find yourself using the same people because of, I trust them, they have this, I know they can do it, blah, 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 blah. But that stops other people from getting in. So I beg you, please, to pause and to relook who you guys have given opportunity, especially now. Like, it's all good and well to see people are working, but it's who is working. That's the difference. And where you can, as creative directors, as ECDs, you do understand that, like I said in the beginning, a production company is a business, okay? And I do think that now's the time that, even though you would say, oh, you know what, but that's not my responsibility. More so today, the responsibility of who you choose and who you give opportunity to result to who eats and whose families can have bread on the table tomorrow. If you keep on briefing the same people all the time because of habits, because of trust, because of whatever, you're limiting other companies and other talents from not eating either. So I do feel that as creative directors, the responsibility now is on you to sit with your producers as well and to say, you know what, let's have a list. Can I have a list of the different companies? Let's have a list of the different creatives in those companies, and let's look at what they do. You know, it's all great to use an OSU or whatever, you know, but let's try and look for other talents, and let's try and open up this industry so that we can make it more inclusive. And inclusivity doesn't necessarily only mean, oh, it's about Black, but it's also being like, I have not given this person an opportunity. This person does have a talent. They've invested in themselves. They've actually plucked up the courage to actually join a production company. A production company actually said, you know what, I see this person, let me bring this person on. So I really, really would urge that your deadlines, like COVID has stopped all deadlines. Your clients are also asking for fresh things, and I'll just use this opportunity to say this now as well. Clients are also reaching out. Clients are looking for fresh perspectives. Clients are tired of that things are expensive. Client says, listen, I've had to retrench X amount of people, yet you still want me to give you 5 million. I don't have that budget. You know what I mean? Clients are also trying to, you know, pay salaries and keep salaries. So at the end of the day, you don't want to be in a position where you keep on going to the trusted people, and the trusted people can only do things how they see it because they want to give you value, and that comes with the price tag, whatever that price tag is. And maybe, just maybe, it's a time for you to relook at your clients and realize that if we lose this client, we're also going to trench about 40 people or so, just because, oh, I'm used to using this person, and this person always increases the budget by, let's say, 200K or 500K. So pause, look at other alternatives, and open up your doors so that you can actually keep your clients, keep your paycheck coming in, and feed different and more mouths.
So I have to jump in. I have to jump in. Amazing answer, Simone. I have to jump in and add to your answer, which I think is beautiful. Is as creative directors and ECDs, it's one of our, and you said it, one of the jobs that we've been trained to do and to seek out is freshness. In every concept, we try and find something that's never been done before, surprising, unexpected, all those words. And part of that thing is to find people who can express it in fresh ways, right? That's part of our jobs as creative leaders, as ECDs, as CDs. And somehow, you know, we fall into this false sense of security by going to the same people. And I think there's a place for that also, but there has to be a place to find freshness. And freshness is amazing when you've got, in the last 3 to 4 years, a whole group of more like big group of directors, new upcoming directors, and it's part of your creative responsibility, firstly. The other thing I want to add, because we're running out of time, I want you to end. The other thing is that you have to have a purpose greater than creative. If you're looking at, to answer Suhana's question about opportunities for young Black directors, it is a political thing. You have to have a purpose beyond the creative job. You have to have a purpose about the country that we live in, and it has to go beyond your career into the country that you live in, the society that you live in. So you have a responsibility as an ECD who makes that call, or the CD that makes a call, also to go outside what you know for the benefit of the country and for the industry at large. And without that, you'll never move forward, and neither will the industry. Okay, I just wanted to add that in. Sorry, I got a soapbox.
No, that's fine. No, that was great. I think it was very important. Rory has just come back and explained his question a little bit, so I think we'll go back to him very quickly. So what Rory was saying is, what I was getting at is there are a few overlapping roles from creative agency to production houses. For example, creative directors and art directors show up on set and sometimes dictate to actual directors how a scene should go. The bane of Simone's existence, this one, I know that. Or production houses pitch with treatments on jobs, and then the art director comes and sends his final treatment document once the job is given to the production house, potentially turning a production house into a walking, talking camera alone. That's, yeah, very, very interesting. So, you know, where does the agency work end, and where does the production house take over and actually show their expertise? Because you're going to have a lot of overlapping and crossover. How do you feel about that?
It's a good question.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, because I've seen it from the agency side for years, and then, you know, there's this, so here's the thing, like, and I'm very much like, one has to be responsible, right? So first of all, you could be commissioned to do a job and you're getting paid for it. Do you understand? And it's for a brand, you know what I mean? It's not like you as the creative, like the production house or the director, the photographer, you've come up with an idea and you've written the script and idea and you've sold it to someone, or you got the funding and therefore you have the autonomy. Do you understand? So I think there's different people, and I've spoken to like different directors about it as well. Some directors will be like, if you're briefing me to do a treatment and you like my treatment, then you should do what I've worked on in terms of this treatment. And that's true, you need to respect that. But I do feel that these days, because of clients forever changing scripts and things are always changing, that you kind of have to start opening up another side of your creativity to kind of like say, okay, if that's changed, let me adapt it a little bit more. But you get on the other side where, yes, you've done the treatment, and then all of a sudden a creative director comes on board and they're like, I don't like this, change this, I don't like, then they start directing. I mean, you get that on set where you're sitting, the director's directing, and then the CD just comes and he or she just changes art direction. I don't like this. And you're like, there's a reason why I put that thing, that glass there, because when the camera pans here on the track, it's gonna hit like this and to make it look nice. No, you don't like that glass because it doesn't look nice. You know what I mean? A lot of us went to school for it. A lot of us have studied, we've worked on these things. If you want to collaborate, collaborate. And that's the thing that I would say for that answer is that you need to, we're at a time now that some creatives feel they're film directors now. And a few of them have jumped over, and a few of them are considering to come over. And maybe it's a good thing, because then you can see what goes in. And then you can see, like, when you come up with an idea or solution for a certain shot and somebody else comes on board and they're trying to do something different, then you can see how difficult it is that somebody just changed your craft, your art, to make something that you think is workable. So if somebody is open to be collaborative, I'd say great, but respect each other's work. That's the best thing I can say. Respect. And we all understand that we're not doing it for our own personal reels, but we're doing it for a client so that they could actually potentially get their ROIs so that we can get more briefs.
Yeah, I think ego ultimately is the enemy there from, you know, creative side, and sometimes with directors, you know, like when I was still in advertising, I'd work with directors who would, you know, you'd say, listen, man, do you mind if this is not what I had in mind? And they'd look at you like, do you know who I am? You know, so it's a weird ego thing. And
but Donovan, is it ego? If you've employed me to do this job, and I've taken time to work on a shot list, I've planned everything to the T to make sure that every shot that I've worked on actually speaks to what it is that we need to do here. Is it ego when you come and you say, as a creative director or an ECD, I don't like that shot. Can you ask the person to do that? And you're like, but that's not going to make sense in terms of storytelling. That's what I'm saying. we've studied these things, you know, you are experts in this thing, you're experts in doing performance narrative, in directing something, but someone who is not an expert in understanding how a story comes together comes and tells you, oh, you must change this thing. Like, that's what I'm asking, is it ego? I don't think so. I'm like, guys, we are experts in this. And it's the thing of like, when somebody thinks that they can direct as well, that they change. I mean, this topic is like, this thing is like, it's a heated thing within directors who continuously feel like they're being undermined, that their creativity is being undermined by people who think that they can do better just because, like, I don't know, the insights work. But if they're willing to collaborate, then it's good. But yeah, I don't think it's either.
But that's for me, like, that's the thing, you know, if you're going to go and you want to work with the director, very specific director, I think from the get-go, the collaboration and the communication must be set up front, because once you get to set, you know, it's heated. You're working with, there's time constraints, there's money. The longer you spend on set, you know, like the client has gone, listen, you said 2 days, you can't tell me 3 days, otherwise we're paying overtime. So it's a very stressful environment, you know. So I think all of those things have to be dealt with way beforehand. And I mean, it's easier said than done, you know, and it's a thing that will constantly happen. So this is actually a very good question that Rory has asked here, you know, because I think it's something that people don't talk about often. It's an energy that's weird. It's so hard to control. And somebody like you, Simone, your job, unfortunately, you're in between all of that. You're the person responsible for managing this thing and making sure both sides are happy. So you're constantly taking the punches, you know. So, well, shout out to you, first of all, for being that person.
Thank you. There's one question which I think Ahmed, I've seen this question.
Which one?
There's a lot from Mumbles.
From Mumbles.
Says,
do you think that
I think that might be the final question.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
we have to end this. Yeah, let's okay, we can end that one. We can end it on that.
Okay. Mumbles is back. He goes, Sims, do you think the reason why Black production houses have not been able to get the big budget jobs is because they are Black?
I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah, I'll answer it. The answer is yes. It's historic. It's also not as ominous as I make it sound, but it is. It's history that has had always white directors who've had the opportunities in production companies, you know, and I think the majority of production companies are still owned by white people, which is fine, and that's the way it's kind of grown. But what that has done is trained all of us as we grew up in this industry. You know, that those companies have now got the credentials that your company, for example, doesn't have yet. So I think there is a fair amount of bias that comes in. I've experienced it myself, and I had some feedback from people who were saying, you know, things like when you have to propose a Black director for a job, or a director who happens to be Black, it feels that both clients and in the agency needs justification and explanations as to why you want to go with that director, whereas if it's a white director, it's not so much of an issue. So I think that the bigger budget job means bigger risk, and unfortunately the way it is, the reality is when there's a Black person in the room, it still exists that people feel they need more assurances. It's not right, but it does exist. I think that the role that the top 5, 6 Black directors you mentioned earlier, you know, the important role they've played is proving, unfortunately, proving to the entire industry, both the agency side and client side, that they have amazing skills to produce the job and to deliver an amazing product, irrespective of who they are. And so they have opened the doors to other people coming under, where hopefully it'll be less about, you know, what color your skin is and more about, you know, what you can deliver, and Black won't be an issue. I'm hopeful.
And then just to kind of add on that, just from the production company side, you know, there's this thing that, like, and that's the reason why I said to that question of like, I take all the briefs from small agencies to big agencies, right? And I'll be dead honest, because I mean, we have to be honest now, that when it comes to Black production companies, like the business itself, there is that thing of, are you guys able to do it? Okay. And you're like, what does that even mean? You know, what does it mean? No, are you able to carry this production and do all that stuff? I've had to learn that what that means, it's twofold in terms of, yes, like, it's not necessarily about experience, but like, you know, do you have the resources? And what I want to explain to the industry is to say, guys, our industry and production, you represent the talent that you have, and to keep your overhead minimal, you bring in freelancers, okay, to do the job. Now, these freelancers are to all of our disposal. We all use the same gear houses, we use the same editors, we use the same production managers, gaffers, you know, you name it. That's why when people go on to set, you'll think that, oh, I thought this person was employed by this production house. Can't this person is also with this production company. It's freelancing, you know what I mean? So, but now the problem is that when a big budget, when it comes to big budgets, it's like, ooh, will they know what to do with that money? Are they going to go away with the money? Are they going to spend that money on their own personal stuff? Is someone's going to buy new weaves from here to Kingston Town? So I've even heard this once where somebody asked, are you sure that Sims, if she gets the money, it's going to go into her business account and not her personal account? These are the things we deal with, guys. So yes, in terms of like resources, guys, let me out. We all use the same resources. We all use the same resources. We all know how to manage big budgets at the end of the day. So yes, there is a thing of we don't get the big budgets because we are Black, because they want to know, oh, can you do it? Yes, we can. Like, we can do it. Some of us, we produce something with overseas talents for like a lot of money. Like, I can't even say the number because, hey, you know, but like over 20 million, like we've done that. You know what I mean? But when you start doing your own thing, you can't even be trusted with 100,000 rands. So, but yet, and also the fact that we also have to say that the minute a Black production company makes one mistake, guys, one mistake like catering, all of a sudden, oh, no. We don't trust them. But if a white production company does it, it's a different thing. You know what I mean? Like, so we really need to start interrogating these things to say, guys, we need to start opening up, be real, be honest with each other and say, look, guys, like, let's try and give Black businesses, and I mean like, not like Black businesses where, you know, there's a trust situation or everything. I'm saying as in like, there's a Simone that comes into the meeting, you know, she owns the company. You know what I mean? You see the 51% or the 65% that owns the Black company. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be like some whatever person that makes that person a level 1. Let's also talk about that. Let's also talk about tokenism as well. Let's stop it, guys, because we're going straight into tokenism as well. Don't just, oh, because the person now, you've got a meeting and you're seeing 2 Black people, but you don't look at who's actually who's the CIPC documents of who owns the company. That's economic transformation. You know what I mean? So let's start opening up these things. Let's start not supporting the fact that there's people that are just going to put Black faces up front. Let's also look at who is behind the business as well to see who's actually going to benefit and help grow the industry and open up more doors for Black people to come in, so that we can change that question of, oh, do Black production companies not get things because they are big budgets because they're Black? We can also help change that together.
Simone Bosman. I know, you can tell why you are so successful and get the big budgets. 20 million, just like that, because of answers like
20 million when you are an agency. We're looking at 20 million like it's a mirage these days. Like,
hey, chap.
I think we're all looking at it like it's a mirage.
Absolutely. Simone, thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you so much for your insights and for answering these questions like it's nothing, so gracefully. You absolutely deserve all of it. I think you've worked so hard. You've built such amazing relationships and you've really done your time. So whatever is coming your way is so deserved. And I really do wish you all the best, honestly.
Thank you so much, my friends. Thank you so much for giving me this platform to speak. And I know that a lot that I've said, I haven't even like touched the main things, and I suppose we need another hour or something like that. But I hope that just me speaking about certain things that we keep on talking in WhatsApp groups and you whispering and stuff and too afraid to talk about, we need to have more of these type of conversations that allow us to talk about these things openly, because not everybody knows the other one's struggles and grievances and all that stuff. And not everybody knows that it's not always hunky-dory. Like, you know, the question that Tahana asked was a very important question. CDs, ECDs, you need to be open to new people, pause what you're doing, give other people opportunities. Don't close the doors. Look at your emails when somebody says, can I have 5 minutes of your time? Because that's how we're going to transform and change the industry, for the better.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Ahmed, always a pleasure having you here, brother.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Simone.
you.
Thank you so much. I just want to end off by saying, Simone, you're very important. Never forget it. Everyone's supporting you. It's important for you to lead and succeed. And I hope everyone comes to the party to make sure that happens. So thank you. Thanks for your time. And thanks, Donovan. Thanks for having me on the show.
Excellent. Before I let you guys go, very quickly for everybody who is on here now, tomorrow is the final deadline, the extended deadline already for the Luries. So you've got until 11 p.m. tomorrow night to submit your work. If there are any young creatives on here, the anonymous attendee lady who's moved to another country, this is an opportunity for you to submit your work. There might be another Lurie for you here in the works. So please do enter that. Young creatives, please, this is a chance for you. Saying that you don't have budget or you don't have money to enter isn't an excuse anymore, because entries are free. So you do have until 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Thank you so much to everybody that tuned in. Thank you for the questions. Next week, we tackle a different topic. We've got Kaya Dlanga speaking about the transition from creative to client. So we're going to unpack that quite a bit. Should be quite interesting. Same time, same place. Simone Bosman, Ahmed Tilly, you guys have been fantastic. Shout out to the Luries and to Brand South Africa, of course. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep making amazing work. Bye.